The breaking of the drought. The drought that gripped the village of Chulaimbo was unlike any before. Animals perished, plants withered, and people starved. Their countable ribs, sharp cheekbones, and sunken eyes were clear signs of the widespread hunger in nearly every household. Hope was fading for many. Some villagers with relatives living across Lake Victoria made the perilous journey to reside there temporarily, waiting out the fiercest drought they had ever known. The sky remained clear, unyielding blue, as if mocking their despair. No one could predict when it might finally end. Expectant mothers like Nyaloka found some relief in mission hospitals like Atemo, which distributed wheat, porridge flour, and maize flour every fortnight. But Oracha, Nyaloka's husband, seemed indifferent to her vulnerability. He feasted on the meager supplies meant to sustain her, behaving as though he was the one carrying a child. The only thing that could bring him home early were dark, threatening clouds, or better yet, a downpour. That evening, despite the clear sky, Oracha arrived earlier than usual. Nyaloka was busy preparing supper when he pushed the door open and stood in the middle of their small, round, grass-thatched hut. The hut was their only shelter, serving as kitchen, living room, bedroom, chicken coop, and cowshed all in one. The cows were tethered outside, while their calves were sheltered inside to protect them from hyenas. Nyaloka observed Oracha closely as he sat down. He didn't stagger. His eyes were clear, and there was no smell of busa, a local alcoholic brew.
"Are you going back?"
Nyaloka asked, her voice laced with suspicion.
Why?
"It's unusual to see you home at this time."
Are you suggesting that I should go back?
"Not really. It just feels abnormal."
They fell into silence as she finished cooking. Nyaloka poured a little water into the sufuria, cooking pot. She had used to prepare wheat and placed it in front of him.
"There,"
she said, pointing at the sufuria. Oracha washed his hands and ate, but unlike his usual self, he didn't ask for more.
"When I asked if you were going back, you ignored me. I knew something was off."
What do you mean? Who told you I'm going back?
"Why haven't you asked for more food then?"
Nyaloka countered, pressing him.
"Tell me."
When I ask for more food, you say I don't care about the baby. When I don't, it's still a problem. Woman, I won't put up with your nonsense. Move, I want to sleep,"
he shouted, heading towards the improvised wooden bed permanently attached to the ground. Before Nyaloka retired to bed, a heavy downpour began pounding the earth. It felt like a dream come true. She wondered how Oracha knew it would rain, despite there being no sign of it earlier. She stole a glance at him as he snored loudly, his hand resting on her side. Gently, she moved his hand onto his chest. The soothing sound of the rain soon lulled her to sleep. It rained continuously into the next day and throughout, but that didn't stop Oracha from visiting Paulina's Busa club, his usual haunt ever since Nyaloka had closed her own joint. Nyaloka had given up brewing after becoming a staunch member of the New Hope Church, a growing presence in their community. Marrying Oracha in Chulaimbo, far from her former church, had initially turned her into a non-believer, leading her to open a profitable Busa business. It took time for her customers to accept that she was no longer the brewer they knew. Despite Oracha's pleas, she remained steadfast. Christianity had called her, and there was no turning back. From 2 kilometers away, one could tell that River Akech was full, its waters gurgling as they surged over rocks and branches. Evening approached, and the relentless rain continued. As fate would have it, labor pains struck. Oracha Jr. was knocking on the door to the world. The contractions came every 5 minutes, then every 2. Oracha was not home, and with the river swollen, his presence would have made little difference. The only way to cross to Atemo Mission Hospital was by bicycle, which was now impossible. Realizing she was alone, Nyaloka prepared as best as she could for the dangerous delivery ahead. The pain intensified, and all she could do was wail as she moved around her small hut. A bright light pierced through the door, and Nyaloka initially mistook it for lightning. But when it didn't disappear, fear gripped her as her water broke.
God, remember me.
The door, usually secured with a long stick, suddenly flew open, the stick falling into the fireplace. Nyaloka breathed a sigh of relief, thinking Oracha had finally arrived. Instead, Sister Joan quickly entered, and realizing the situation, shouted for help. Her driver rushed in, and together they carried Nyaloka to the car. They sped towards the hospital, but Oracha Jr. couldn't wait. He was born right there in the car.
I've seen the hand of God.
Nyaloka whispered, tears streaming down her face as she looked at the baby. God's grace is sufficient, Sister Joan replied. Dawn was approaching, and Paulina could no longer keep her late-night customers. She sent them away to prepare for the following day. Although Oracha was reluctant to leave, he didn't want to repeat the humiliation he had faced before. On one occasion, he had refused to leave when Paulina closed up, hiding under her table to avoid detection. When Paulina offered a reward to anyone who found him, he eventually revealed himself to claim the money, much to everyone's amusement. Remembering that incident, he was the first to leave this time, despite how drunk he was. Staggering down the road, Oracha dared any mischievous being lurking in the shadows to come closer. Despite his bravado, walking alone at night terrified him, a self-imposed punishment he thought, for his addiction to busa. As he approached the gate, just a few meters from the house, he began muttering to himself.
I hope you are happy now that I'm home late. Yesterday, Paulina didn't do busa because she went to visit her parents. I've answered your questions. Oh yes, woman.
He sang, thinking of Nyaloka's complaints about his early return the previous day. One kick at the door sent him tumbling to the earthen floor. He groaned in pain, calling out for Nyaloka to help him up. The room was dark, the floor filthy, a mix of Nyaloka's broken water, mud from Sister Joan and the driver's shoes, and rainwater. He groped around, trying to find something to hold on to, but in vain. And part 2 continues.